Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is our last office hours for 2750. Usually a pretty popular one because I'm going to talk about the final exam a lot here. I'll just before I get to that, I'll just kind of go over a few other things and sort of lead up to the content of the final. We don't have a lot going on. We just have discussion posts to finish off and a chapter quiz coming up for this week, and then we're done until the final. Now, I haven't checked when the final is, but I'll do that right now. It is Tuesday, April 26th at 7 p.m. It's in 3 locations. It's in the gym in Peterborough. It's in Durham, DRA 107, or it's online with Examity. If you did not specifically choose a location between the 3rd and the 18th, as per the email from Trent Online, you're expected to be in the gym in Peterborough. So I will undoubtedly get more emails saying I missed that deadline or whatever. I am not making any changes for anybody. However, Trent Online is probably nicer than I am, so you should reach out to online@trentu.ca and see if you can get them to change. If you have just not done what you're supposed to do and declare a location and you want to be, say, in Durham, or you want to be online, then please reach out to them. If you don't do that, or if they refuse, then you'll be writing in Peterborough if you didn't designate some other place. Okay. If you've chosen to write online, the service that Trent uses is called Examity. You should have got an email yesterday advising you to create an account for Examity if you don't already have one, and to schedule your exam with Examity. So the schedule for Examity is going to be for the 24-hour period, starting when the people that are writing in person start. So starting April 26th at 7 p.m. and it'll likely go until Wednesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. as well. There'll be a 24-hour window for you to book. So a couple things. If you anticipate any problems, I would book around the times that online at Trent is available. I think they're open till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I want to say 10 o'clock at night. And then I'm not sure when they start, probably at 9 in the morning the next day. So if you have any concerns, for instance, if your time zone means that you're writing at 3 a.m. And you run into some sort of problems, you want to send online at Trent an email and copy me, but you're not going to get a response from me. I'll be sleeping, but do copy me. If there is something to be done afterwards, then I will do what needs to be done. However, your internet connection is your own problem, so please have a backup. Please have data on a phone, an alternate internet connection, or an alternate location to get to that has internet, just in case your internet goes out. I don't have a way to remedy that, and I won't be allowing people to rewrite because they lost their internet connection partway through. That is your responsibility, okay? I just like to be upfront. I don't want any surprises for people. I don't want anyone shocked if they run into that situation. So please try and make sure you've got a backup or an alternate plan of some sort. I did say this back in office hours before people were making choices. So if that scares you and you have the option of writing in person, then reach out to online at Trent and get them to, or ask them to schedule you in person, okay? In the next couple of weeks, I will get, and maybe sooner, I will get a list of who is writing where so that I can distribute exams for those people, okay? In the actual day of the exam, please bring a pencil, an eraser, a pen if you prefer to do your written answers in pen, I think it's a little faster than by pencil, but that's me. And bring ID, ideally your Trent ID, secondarily a driver's license or some legal photo ID that you have. We will be walking around in person. We'll be walking around and confirming IDs. So yeah, those are the things that you need. If you're writing with Examity, I did post a link. A student was kind enough to forward me a link. It'll give you an idea. If you've not used the service before, it'll give you an idea of how to what to expect and the things you need. So you need a webcam, you need a microphone. Those are not optional, and you'll have to set yourself up in a space by yourself as well. So it's my understanding that they will have you take your webcam and scan it around the room and show the desk and show your workspace, and that you'll want to be on that webcam for the duration of the exam. So, okay, it's just another way of proctoring an exam that's a lot more convenient for people that are not, that aren't able to be in Peterborough or prefer to write online. We will, in this course, fortunately, you will have a cheat sheet, and Examity will know about that, and the proctors in the various places will know about that. It'll be an 8.5 by 11. It'll be two-sided. It can be handwritten or printed. You're welcome to print it as small as you can read. I don't care. That's up to you. But you will have that cheat sheet. And I strongly recommend that you build that as you're studying, and that way you have something to refer to if you need to. Other than that, it is a closed book exam. Okay, you won't be able to use your internet connection if you're writing online to Google or have your book open or anything like that. Okay. I think that's all about the physical writing. So you guys are probably veterans. Cheat sheet is double-sided, two sides. You guys are veterans at this point of writing exams, so you know this is a 3-hour exam. If you don't make it there in the first hour, the doors will be figuratively locked. No one will be able to start after the first hour. And conversely, no one will be able to leave the exam in the first hour. So that's a courtesy to people. When we get down to the last, I think it's about 15 minutes, it might be 20 minutes left in the exam, you'll be asked not to leave. So that's out of respect for the people that are in full-on panic mode, perhaps, or they're trying to get every mark that they can, so that you're not distracting by getting up and grabbing your stuff and shuffling around and that sort of thing. So if you get to that last, and your proctor will let you know if you're writing in person these rules. I certainly read them out to the people I proctor. So if you get to the last 20 minutes, please just sit there quietly until everyone's done writing. Okay. I will be proctoring in Durham. If you want to see me or avoid me, I think I've told people that before. Then you choose Durham or not Durham, depending. We usually have a relatively small group there, but it's convenient for people coming from the GTA and people obviously living in the Durham region, so they don't have to drive all the way to Peterborough. So I will see you there if you're writing there. That is still, if you're making a change from Peterborough to Durham, that still has to go through online at Trent for that permission. I will be providing the number of exams for the people that we expect, and I will have a list of the people that are supposed to be writing there. So please be organized. Okay. Term papers, we're mostly done marking them. I haven't released them yet. I'm going to release them all together. I would ask when that happens for you to take a look at your mark. If you have questions about your mark, take a look at the comments. We're providing extensive comments about what was good and bad about your paper, and look at the rubric itself to see where you lost marks. Don't send me an email saying, "Sir, I tried very hard and I didn't get the mark that I think I should." neither myself nor any other professor that I know marks on effort. We mark on results. So you will have feedback, and it's not just me. There's 4 of us that were marking the term papers. So if you have an issue, I'm happy to review it. But before you bring it to my attention, you need to do your homework and read the comments and try and see if you understand, or if you can put yourself in the place of the marker to understand why we've said those comments. Okay. If if all that passes the smell test and you still don't either agree, or you think we've made a mistake, which we do, I mean, that happens, right? The markers are human as well. If we've made a mistake in our assessment, I will happily look at your paper again. If I'm the person that marked it in the first place, I will get someone else to take another look at it. But that is, that's a two-sided coin that you have to contend with. If I remark your paper and I decide that the workshop leader that marked it was overly generous, your marks will go down. And that's not a threat. It doesn't happen very often. I usually, in papers that I've reviewed, I've usually come out to a very similar mark to what my workshop leaders come to. We've worked together for a long time. I set out the exact expectations that I have for the way they're going to mark, and they do a really good job of doing that. So we mark an awful lot of papers. It's not personal for us. We're not looking at people's names or deciding for whatever reason. Students often take marks very personally, and I understand from the perspective that it means a lot to you, but it's not a personal attack. We are assessing what we see, and in the case that we've made a mistake, I'm happy to remark that, and I will do that. But you should at least try to reconcile our comments with the marks that you got before reaching out to me. I would ask that. Okay. I think those marks will probably be released over the weekend or early next week. We got most of the last discussions marked, but not all, unfortunately, by Friday. We did have the priority of doing the term papers, so there were some people that didn't get their discussion marks. Those should be done. They'll certainly be done, I think, by tomorrow, and you'll have those marks in front of you as well. The unfortunate part is for the few people that weren't marked, they didn't get an opportunity to know that mark before they decided whether they were going to do the 5th and final discussion. Remember, it's best 4 out of 5. So I think I've covered everything except for the content of the exam that I was going to. Does anyone have any questions before I proceed to break down the exam for you? Okay, I'll start on the exam now. The exam is that's exactly what I'm going to talk about, Henry. The exam is going to be 100 multiple choice or multiple answer questions, just like what you've seen in the quizzes. You should be quite familiar with what they are. I will provide a practice multiple choice section for you to work on. It'll be a one-time. Like my policy has been all along, I won't be releasing the answers. The expectation is that you use the multiple choice practice to see how long it's taking you to get through those, so that you can time yourself for the exam. I'll talk about that in a second. And to identify where you don't know the answer, where you're not certain of the answer, so that you can focus your studying. If I was preparing for this exam, I would be going through every single chapter, and I'd be reading it through and making sure that I understood it. I'd be doing a full-on study. Do not be fooled by good results to date when you've had the opportunity to have the book open in front of you. It's a whole new approach now. Now, you're going to have a cheat sheet for sure, but it's not the same as being able to flip through the book or go online and find an answer quickly, right? So do prepare is what I'm saying. Students often ask how traditionally the final exam goes. This one's usually in the 60 to 70 range, and it's mostly because students are not well prepared. I'm always shocked at how students that have really, really good marks coming in for the first 70% or so of the course end up demonstrating that they really don't understand anything about the course. So do be prepared. The final exam there won't be trick questions, but there'll be enough marks in the short answers that we'll quickly figure out who really doesn't have a clue what's going on and who actually is prepared. Okay, so there's 100 multiple choice, multiple answer, and there's 80 marks, which is 8 short answer questions. So by no coincidence whatsoever, there's 180 marks and it's 180 minutes long. So your pace should be 1 mark per minute. If you're well prepared, the 100 multiple choice questions will not take you, multiple choice and multiple answer questions will not take you 100 minutes, okay? The people every year that don't complete the exam, and there's lots of people that complete the exam in an hour and a half and do very well. They're well prepared and they've understood the subject matter. The people that often I'll get a few complaints at the end of the exam, too long, whatever. Those are people that are not prepared, and they usually take way too much time in the multiple choice, okay? There will be multiple choice questions with only one answer and some with select all that apply. That's right. So if you're doing, I'll clearly say choose all that apply, but if you're writing it online, if it's a single choice, it's a round button. It's what they call a radio button. So you can only press one button. I don't know if I've ever told you the history of that, but you can only press one choice at a time. If it's a square box, it's choose all that apply, and you can choose multiple answers. Can we use point form for the short answer as long as we explain fully? I love the question, and the answer is an emphatic yes. Please use short, like point form for the short answers. You do not have to write full sentences. Do not waste the time unless you're the kind of person that needs to write in full sentences in order to get the answer out. If you're that person, that's fine, no problem. Please use paragraphs. Don't face us with a block of text. But if you can do it with point form, it's way easier to mark. Way, way, way easier to mark. And it's probably better for you to organize as well. If you're writing it online, you will have the text editor where you can do the little point form like you do, in Word or whatever. You'll have that little doohickey that'll allow you to do point form in a really nice way, okay, in a really easy way for us to mark. Typically, if it's a 10-mark question, which it is, I'm looking for 5 good solid points, unless the question says something differently. If it says list and explain 6 ways, then obviously 5 is not going to do. You need to do 6. If it says list and explain 4 ways, don't waste your time doing 5. If you use the approach of a shotgun and you try and give me 8 points and you hope I'll pick the best 5, I will not. I will pick the first 5. And if in that first 5 you've got an incorrect one, you will obviously not get credit for that. Okay, so 5 good points, no more, no less, unless the question asks for something different. Read the question carefully. List is one thing. Don't waste your time with an explanation. If it says list and explain or list and describe or something like that, do your list and then describe each point, okay? So typically if I mark that, if it's list and describe, you get a point for identifying it and a point for describing it, times 5 points, unless I ask for 6 or 4 or something different, okay? I had the last class ask me if grammar and spelling and things like that can cause a deduction. They do not, unless we can't understand what you're saying. If your spelling is so bad that we don't know what you're saying, then obviously we can't give credit. If your grammar is bad, well, we can live with that as long as we understand what you're saying, okay? So obviously the better is better, but don't sweat it. I know you're trying to scribble down as much information as you can typically. If you have time, take a chance to review it and make it clearer, and make sure you've got everything down that you thought you did. But no, we're not the. It's not like your term paper where we're going to crack down on grammar and spelling and things like that, because there's no expectation that you can polish your answers in the final exam. You also don't have to reference or cite anything. Okay, if you have a great memory and you can quote word for word from the text, please do. Yeah, that's great. However, there would be no need to cite that. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, just if you prepare yourself well and you do the practice multiple choice, you should have a good comfort to know how long it's going to take you to do everything. The other thing is, in paper, this doesn't apply because in paper you get all your pages. When you're writing online by Examity, all of the questions will be available to you at all times. I'm not one of these professors that do one question at a time and make you flip back and forth. You can go right down to the bottom and do your short answers, or you can start at the top, or you can start in the middle. You can do whatever you want. You can write every other one if that's what you want to do. My recommendation, for what it's worth, is what I would do anyways, is I would start at the top with the multiple choice. I would get as many marks as I could under my belt as fast as I could. And if I was going to skip a question, I would take a note so that I could come back to that, but I wouldn't waste a lot of time on questions on the first pass. On my first pass through the exam, I'm trying to get as many marks as I can. It makes no sense. Like, say you get through your multiple choice and you get stuck on your first written one, and you spend way too much time on that one. There's 7 other written ones. Maybe you know every single one of those, and you're walking away from 56 marks, which you don't want to do, right? Or sorry, you're walking away from 70 marks, which you don't want to do. So yeah, please don't get hung up. You guys are veterans. You've written a lot of exams, presumably by this point, but I do like to sort of emphasize that there's no penalty for guessing on the multiple choice. In other words, if you get a multiple choice or multiple answer wrong, there's no negative. There's also no partial marks. So it's all or none for those multiple answer ones as well. What percent? Good question. These are excellent questions, by the way. What percentage of the exam is going to be on chapters 1 to 5? So that's a very good point. So the final is on chapters 1 through 10. It's on everything. There's probably going to be about 10 or 15% that is going to be directly from chapters 1 to 5. The reason being that we've already tested it, so we don't need to retest it. The caveat to that is that there may be something in chapter 6 that you have to know something from chapter 3 in order to answer fully, right? So there is that caveat, but there won't be that much in the way of the first 5 chapters in the multiple choice, multiple answer. When I do the test one, it'll be in the same proportions as what the final will be. Now, if you're writing in person, obviously the paper is pre-printed, but if you're writing online, it's a random exam each and every time. So it's not to say that for the people writing online that they couldn't be at 20% of content from chapters 1 to 5. That's a possibility. It could also be 5%. So it just depends on the luck of the draw in terms of your specific exam. There's a real possibility that I will do multiple versions of the written exam. If I do, you will see somewhere on the exam in very bold writing that you have to put on the Scantron which version. Obviously, the Scantron answers will be different for the different versions. If you pick the wrong version, you're not going to be happy with your mark because it's going to be based on the marking criteria on a different exam, on a different multiple choice portion of the exam entirely. Okay. When you are in person, I'm speaking to the people in person now, when you're filling out the Scantron, please write your student number beside where you fill it out. Every year, there's at least a couple or a few students that put in a student number that doesn't pertain to any student in that course. So leave me some breadcrumbs so that I can figure out who you are, so that I can give you marks for your exam. So write your name in clearly on the Scantron, write it on the exam, and maybe initials on every page, so that if it gets separated for some unknown reason, that we can put it back together and attribute it to the right person. So I'm a big proponent of having backup information, so that if you did put the wrong student number down, or your name was not clear to us, we could figure out who you were, so that you can get. If only one person screws up, that's fine. We can figure that out, but that's not likely the case. There will be 2 or 3 students that will put down the wrong information for their student number, and I'll need to be able to figure out who they are. Okay, so do yourself a favor and help me out there. Are there any other questions? For the short answer question, what's the approximate ratio chapter that'll be focused on? Yeah, so there's no, so sorry, just to read the full question for people that watch this afterwards, as there are 10 chapters and 8 questions. So again, the questions will be from a pool if you're writing online, so it could end up being sort of anything. There's no specific chapter that I would focus on. What I would say is that the short answer questions, and this is not a guarantee, they're going to be much more heavily focused on the second part, the second half, so chapter 6 through 10. But what I'll try and do is scenario based. So I'm going to walk you through some sort of a scenario where you're going to respond how you would deal with that scenario. And there'll be multiple questions in a series that will walk you through that. That's how it generally works. So yeah, there's nothing, I can't really give you any advice as to which chapter to focus on that way. I do strongly recommend that you read through everything, study it through to make sure that you understand. Like I think I said earlier, it's always surprising at how many students really have no clue, like that are just way out in left field, even though they've had good marks with the book open. So you won't have the book open, you will have a cheat sheet, but if you don't properly prepare, you're not going to do well in this exam. It's not going to be a complete walk in the park, and don't let the previous results fool you into thinking that you're well prepared for the final. It's a different animal when you don't have a book in front of you. Just to confirm again, sorry, just gotta make my window a little bigger. For the practice exam, will we be able to check back on the answers? Nope. The answers will not be made available for all the reasons that I've talked about all term. The topics of the discussion post and term paper may come up. Yeah, they may. So I say that to a limited extent. And the reason I say that is everyone answered those questions a little differently. Some of the main focal underlying things, like steganography, for instance, or encryption, things like that. Those sorts of things are sort of baseline information that you should know about. But I can't necessarily ask questions in too great a detail from the discussions, because each and every person went down their own road for that. So I want to double check the number of points we list for the short answer. Unless it's specified, we only put 5 points down. Yeah, 5 good points, Beth, please. Presumably, most of the time, it's not going to be just list. It might be list 10 items, but if it's a list, it'll be a list and describe. So you'll want to put 5 good solid points down with wholesome descriptions of them. Okay, so if you don't have any further questions, please get on with your Saturday. I will post this as I always do. If you do have further questions, please feel free to ask them. I will address them to the extent I can. But thank you very much for coming out. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate the questions, and good luck on the final. Thank you.